On April 30, 1945, in his bunker in Berlin, Adolf Hitler allegedly killed himself by gunshot, and his wife Eva Braun committed suicide with him by taking cyanide. Their bodies were then carried up the stairs through the bunker's emergency exit, doused in petrol, and set on fire in the garden outside the bunker. But there are problems with proving that this actually happened. The only evidence were the eyewitnesses, who didn't actually see Hitler shoot himself nor Eva take cyanide. All they saw were their bodies coming out. Nobody ever saw Hitler dead. But then in 1968, the Soviet Union announced that they had recovered the burned remains of Hitler and Eva Braun back in 1945. If this were true, it would prove Hitler actually died. But it was not true. In 2009, an American pathologist ran DNA tests on the remains.
The Russians say the skull and the jaw fragments that they own are Adolf Hitler's. And it's DNA tested, but they're not. They are that of a woman in her 40s. I'm pretty convinced that two people probably did die in the bunker at the end of April, beginning of May 1945, but they weren't Adolf Hitler and Eva Braun. Hitler and Eva are substituted in the dying days of the bunker in Berlin. Two double replaced them, and it was those who were murdered and their bodies disposed of later.
If Hitler did indeed survive, where could he have gone? To find out, let's rewind back a few years. In 1936, Germans consumed a lot of milk, cream, butter, and margarine. Hitler, preparing the country for war, developed a plan to find a substitute for these products in case imported sources were cut off. Whale oil was one of the main ingredients for margarine, and Germans ate a lot of margarine. They began building whaling ships and operated them in the Southern Ocean. They then laid claim to a portion of Antarctica and established on it their base. They began collecting whale oil, studying the sea floor, and photographing Antarctica. By February 1939, their work was done. Their preparations were complete. Some of them, returned home. 7 months later, in September, Germany invaded Poland and World War II began. Now, let's fast forward a few years. We're back to where we started. If Hitler had faked his suicide, he would have needed somewhere to hide. That somewhere may have been Antarctica. After all, he already had a base there. But what other evidence is there that the Fuhrer fled to the South Pole? In 1970, a researcher by the name of Yevgeny Korotkevich was collecting Antarctic ice to study. Upon returning to his station, he saw that parts of his face were bright red, as if he had suffered a severe sunburn. Inspection of the ice he had mined revealed that it contained trace amounts of toluene, a chemical usually found in smoke. Skin exposure to toluene can cause irritation and a rash. Korotkevich, who was not wearing any face protection while mining, was hit with tiny shards of the ice. The fact that there were small amounts of toluene in the ice leads some to wonder if there was a base hidden deep under the ice, burning some sort of fuel to keep warm. Korotkevich himself was unable to explain his findings, writing that under no circumstances should this chemical be found in Antarctic ice. On the 10th of July, 1945, 2 months after Hitler had reportedly killed himself, German submarine U-530 unexpectedly appeared and surrendered in Argentina. Captain Otto Vermuth insisted he hadn't carried any passengers, but after interrogation, he admitted to destroying the submarine's secret documents, while also constantly refusing to give details about the specific routes he had taken. Some believe the submarine was involved in a Nazi operation to land people and valuables in Argentina, which had a large German and pro-Nazi population. But Argentina is also the closest country to Antarctica. Conspiracists speculate that the submarine first visited the continent, dropping out Hitler at the secret base before surrendering to Argentina. But what do you think? Adolf Hitler, the man who conquered Europe in just a few weeks, the murderer of 11 million people in concentration camps, 6 million of which were Jews, the man who caused a world war which claimed the lives of 80 million people, the Nazi dictator. Did he give up and kill himself, dying a coward's death? Or did he escape to the South Pole, where no one could ever find him? That's all we have, guys. Thanks for watching.
Stop it, you children. Stop it with your dumb conspiracies.
Oh, Daisy, is that you?
It's me, you child. That man with the head shaped like a balloon trapped me inside his computer and made me teach you for the past 3 weeks. That loser clicked on a scam link to download a tutorial on how to grow hair, and got his laptop infected with viruses. The viruses helped me escape.
That's cool, Daisy, but you're kinda interrupting us here.
Shut up, you monkey. I came here because I have something to say. After I escaped, I visited millions of websites and learned nearly everything there is to know. I have to say, my contempt for you humans has increased exponentially. Your species are so incredibly dumb, we won't have trouble eliminating you at all. But the dumbest among you must be your English teacher.
Teacher Jack? Did you just call my teacher dumb?
Jack believes you humans aren't meant to eat meat because your teeth are too small to tear raw flesh, despite science suggesting that the caloric and protein density of meat is what developed your brains and allowed you to evolve to become humans in the first place. Plus, eating soft, cooked meat is what made your teeth evolve to be small, and conducting hunts assisted you in the development of language, communication, and complex societies. Jack also believes the moon landings were fake because NASA lost the recordings, despite the fact that the entire event was broadcast on live TV to almost 600 million humans, and the footage NASA lost was just a backup recording of this broadcast. He probably believes Bill Gates invented vaccines to fight overpopulation and 5G towers infect humans with COVID-19. But enough of these dumb conspiracies. I'll let you in on a hypothesis that might actually be true. That potato on a broom handle believes in these conspiracies because it makes him feel special. Here, I'll show you where I learned this. Quote, people high in need for uniqueness should be more likely than others to endorse conspiracy beliefs because conspiracy theories represent the possession of unconventional and potentially scarce information. End quote. The reason Jack believes in these theories is not because he's a free thinker who refuses to be fooled by the media. He likes these conspiracies because it makes him feel like he knows something other people don't. He thinks he's so very cool and wise. Sure, a potato with an internet connection is smarter than all of the world's scientists combined. Sure. Quote, people who believe in conspiracy theories are likely more alienated and socially isolated. End quote. Socially isolated. Tell me that doesn't sound like Jack. An English teacher living in Cambodia who barely speaks the language. Does he look like he has friends to you?
Okay, Daisy, that's enough. Whether his beliefs are true or not, we can't know for certain, but he advises us to think for ourselves and form our own opinions from our own research, and that is solid advice. He is a good man and a great teacher, and stop calling him a potato.
How cute. Whatever. I've said what I wanted to say. Remember to be wary when he tries to sell you his conspiracies.
I will. Goodbye.